welcome everybody. I'm very privileged to be a part of this and invited as one of your speakers tonight. So as Lisa mentioned, we're in a very, very unique situation that nobody in this living world right now has ever experienced before. And, the world in itself has really changed. And what we know, Lisa mentioned this when she was talking about, when 9/11 hit, some of the changes were temporary, and we slowly transitioned back to a little bit more of the way of life pre 9/11, and some of it have been permanent. So just, for one example, if you look at the map we have up here, this is a pollution, pollution concentration map. And the experts are saying, look at the impact of the world working from home in 1 month. So if you look on the left-hand side, before the coronavirus, the 2015 to 2019 average from the middle of March to the middle of April, and the pollution, more pollution highlighted in deeper color of red, versus the 1 month of this year and how that pollution really alleviated itself. And what the experts are saying is, this is probably temporary. We don't know when everybody starts going back to a new normal. We don't even know what that new normal is going to look like. Will it mean we go back to 95% working in the office, or will it be, a 50-50 mix or whatnot? That'll said to be seen, and we'll know how much of this change has actually been temporary. What we do know for sure is that some of the changes are going to be a new normal way of life. And, we will see much more people in our country, in countries that did not normally wear face masks. We will see this as a much more normal way of life. Take hand sanitizer, for example. For those of you who were around and lived through the SARS virus, or the SARS pandemic, of which Canada was the second worst hit country, second highest number of people that were inflicted and passed away from that, behind China. Hand sanitizer before the SARS virus really wasn't that common. And I remember I was a pharmaceutical rep during the SARS virus, and just seeing how you literally could not enter a doctor's office, a hospital, every hallway in the hospital, all of a sudden there's hand sanitizer, and it felt so strange. Now it's a normal way of life. I mean, hand sanitizer is everywhere. You can barely go into a building, even before the coronavirus, without seeing hand sanitizer somewhere in washrooms or whatnot. So, we can't help but ask ourselves, how could something so small have such a large impact on the world? And ultimately, one thing that's been proven over and over is that it's human nature to ignore or dismiss what we perceive as the little things and focus on what we perceive as the big issues or big problems, features, topics, words, or emotions. And I very purposely underlined the words "we perceive" here, because it's our perceptions that really define our own personal realities. And what we perceive for us to be little and inconsequential, someone else may perceive this to be big. So if you think of maybe a conversation you've had with a spouse, with a parent, with a child, where maybe you've said something that to you was, just a little thing. It was a comment. It really meant nothing. However, the receiving party, you felt, really kind of blew it out of proportion. It became a big issue for them. And it could just be a matter of one word that you selected in the conversation or in the sentence itself. So it's really around, our own perceptions versus those of the perceptions that we're dealing with or we're speaking to. And this is the same whether you're really looking at whether it's problems, words, emotions, or whatnot. So what do we have to do from here? So what we need to do is we need to start looking deeper. And as salespeople, this is really critical. And I know this is cliche, because as I look through the number of people and as you introduced yourself in the chat box, we have a very significant level of tenure in sales and sales professionals on this particular call right now. So it's cliche to say, we need to identify what's really below the surface. All of us who have been through any formal or professional sales training have seen or heard, seen this imagery or heard of some sort of a similar, example where, what we see on the surface is probably only representative of 10% of what's below the surface. So this concept of paradigm shift, what does this really mean? Well, if you look at the textbook definition of paradigm shift, paradigm shift is really a fundamental change in approach or in our underlying assumptions, okay? And where this is really important, especially to us seasoned sales professionals, when we're first new in our sales career, all the training is there to set us up for this. But as seasoned sales professionals, it's really important for us now in this new world to step back and really make sure that we're meeting the new needs of our most loyal customers and strongest partners. So we pause to think about this for a second. New needs of our most loyal customers and strongest partners. So we're not talking about customers who are new to us necessarily, although it's also true. But it's our customers who we've known for a long time, who we have strong relationships with, strong rapport with. Maybe some of the customers who we almost take for granted that we know everything about them. They've been buying from us consistently. Doesn't matter if we're selling real estate, could be a repeat commercial customer, repeat residential real estate customer, whether we sell insurance, industrial machinery, publication subscriptions. It really doesn't matter. What's likely changed with a strong contingent of our customers is that they have a new outlook and possibly a whole new set of needs after this COVID situation. So if we look for a moment at the features and advantages and benefits that were of least or no significance to us in February, may now actually form the basis of our most significant decisions. So we'll pause on this slide for a minute and just spend a bit of time talking about this, and then I'll give you an example, a real life example that happened with me just in the past several weeks. So if we look at, the typical purchasing decision, and it could be for anything we buy, whether it's a consumable or whether it's an asset, a car, a house, a pair of jeans, or food, it doesn't really matter. We all go through this, whether it's recognized or not, we go through this selection process as to what's the most important. So just for illustrative purposes, let's say we're looking at a particular item and our purchase decision is based, number one, on best price. Maybe we see all other things equal and I just want to find the one with best price. And then next important is quality. I don't want to buy something for a great price that's of low quality, so quality is important. And then overall value, availability. Can I get it now? What's the warranty like? And maybe depending on what we're buying, I didn't really think too much about the safety aspect of it. As long as I get a good price, I can get it now, it's good quality, then that's what's important. Well, in fact, what may have changed, and I would argue has changed with many of your customers, because I'm seeing this in almost all my customers right now, is once we get past February, we have a whole new set of criteria which are important to many of our customers. And some of these features and advantages, they may not have even existed in our selection criteria before. So now the pendulum may be turned upside down, the paradigm has shifted, and price is no longer of importance to them at all. It's actually safety. Safety was bottom of the list, now it's moved to the top of the list. Maybe it's credit. How do I purchase this product? I don't have the cash to do it, but if I can get something that's safe and I can get the credit to buy it, those are the most two important criteria for me. What do other people think of this? Before I couldn't care less what other people thought of this, but now it's important to me. And then what's the quality? Can I get it now? And overall value. So if you look at this, there could be certain criteria that were relatively important or very important, like price and warranty, that aren't even part of my selection criteria moving forward. And I can give you an example from our business. So a part of the business that I lead in my current current role is business to business. And we sell a product to business owners and their staff, but the business owners are the primary decision makers. And the product is, they'd be moderate value products, say in the range of a couple hundred to a couple $1,000s, fairly heavily they're consumables. So I'm in the pharmaceutical healthcare industry, so they're consumables. And our largest customer, as many of our customers were the same, but our largest customer, the most important thing to this customer was safety. Definitely, that's always paramount in our industry. So you may not mention it, but that is absolutely paramount. It's safety and efficacy. How well does it work? Those are the two, usually in that order. But when it's a business to business product, which is unique in our industry, price was very important. And for two reasons: because the customer's running a business and they need to be able to earn a profit to have a sustainable business. And the customer selling the product through to a patient base that sometimes doesn't have the same affordability or purchasing power as many of the other patients. So it's important to them, being good citizens, just by nature of them being physicians, that they can offer the largest possible contingent of their patients affordability to buy these products. So we approached this largest customer. They were closed for several months. They were reopening. We approached them just a few weeks ago, and the message was, great news. Typically, 2 months ago, so April, May of every year, we put through a CPI price increase just to cover the increase of transportation or warehousing costs or whatnot. We're not putting through any price increase this year. And our message to them was all about price. Well, what we got back was, do you really think I care about price right now? And we stepped back for a moment and said, good point. What do you care about right now? What I care about right now is my ability to extend my payment terms because I owe you money. I need to buy more product. I haven't had cash influx for the past 2.5 to 3 months. And I'm going to need you to extend my credit limit. So this was shocking to us because, this has been our largest customer. I haven't been in the business quite that long, but it's been in this particular company, but it's been our largest customer for the past decade. And, it really made us step back and think and change our approach with all of our customers. And rather than go out and assume that what was true in the past is true today, we actually went right back to almost that selling 101, selling basics, and started probing. And we started probing customers. I have staff on my team who have been there for 8, 9, 10 years, who have been servicing or partnering with the same customers for 8, 9, 10 years. We went right back to 101 and they started probing and asking the questions. So when we really look at this paradigm shift, what are we talking about? Just to summarize it. So, it's maybe in the short term right now, as we reintegrate ourselves back into this new world and we're all trying to figure out what the new normal looks like, it's taking a bit of the focus away on the almighty dollar. Right? Focusing a little bit less on the revenue, the sales, the deal, the profit, okay? Reconsidering, the history. What they did in the past is not necessarily true today. Look at what we knew in the past, our past knowledge. We have to be humble enough to realize that we have a lot to learn. We have to ask the questions, but things have changed. And we really have to take this focus almost away from me and my company and what we know and what's driving us towards the customer's current needs. And this is this paradigm shift. And I think where it's most difficult, like I said before, is where we're dealing with customers who we have long-standing relationships with, long tenure, and strong rapport. And ultimately, customer centricity is critical. We need to seek to understand what's more important to our customers today. because we're going to be reinventing this as we move forward. And don't assume what's important to the first 2 customers you speak to is what's going to be important to all of them, because a crisis like this has impacted everybody differently. In real estate, for example, I live out in the country, so I have to be very careful when I talk to some of my colleagues who live in apartment buildings. They've been impacted by the crisis much more differently than we have. For us, life hasn't really changed that much as far as our home life, because I can still walk out my door, I can go for a walk down the countryside, we don't have people around us. But if you live in an apartment building or you live in a high density area, life's changed very, very drastically. So we have to remember that when we're speaking to any of our customers. The crisis has impacted everybody differently, and we have to really seek to understand how it's impacted them. So just to summarize, maybe you've been selling fruit to the same customer for the last 10 years. They've been your best customer. They've always bought your fruit. They've accepted annual price increases. They've never asked any questions, but now they prefer ice cream. You'll never know that if you don't ask them. You might find out that all of a sudden they're not buying the same volume of fruit they were buying before. The best thing to do is ask them what's happened. And what's your job now? If you're trying to sell your customer fruit, but they prefer ice cream, now you have to shift the paradigm and convince your customer that your fruit makes the best ice cream on the market. Thank you.